Coming up next on Cordisco's Corner. And secondly, they're doing it for permanent one-party rule. The founders, it looks like, the founding fathers set up a system that was idiot-proof. And I was born in 1956. And this is the founders, in my lifetime, the biggest test of the federal system. Hi, folks. Welcome to Cordisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back. From Fox News. Liberal pundits melt down after Sinema doubles down on her filibuster support. Resign or be removed from office. This is worse than incoherent or cowardice. It's a moral disgrace, Jennifer Rubin tweeted. Why are they so hell-bent on this so-called election voting bill, this voting rights bill? Because it changes all the rules. It changes all the rules on voting to basically the same things they had 2020 during when COVID was really, we were just beginning to deal with it, and it was spreading everywhere, and people were dying everywhere, and it was just a disaster. So rules were changed, rules were bent, and it ended up how it ended up. Can't go into detail because this is YouTube. Why do they want this so badly? They don't give a good damn about voting rights. They give a good damn about power and control, though. All the rules that were changed temporarily because it was COVID, now they want to make permanent, and they want to have a permanent advantage against their opponents, who they consider evil, the Republicans, about ballot harvesting and all the rest, and all the holes that would be in the system for security. It's not stopping anyone from voting. That's a lie. I live in upstate New York. I was a local elected official in the early 2000s. I was a council member, city council member. Plus, I was an election inspector once. I'm very familiar with a lot of the rules. There's nobody turned away. Nobody. That's a lie. And this thing about ID being racist, that's a lie too. So you have to ask yourself, why are they so mad? Because they see this as their last shot at permanent control, one-party rule for at least a generation. And they're mad as hell because they can't twist the system. I'll just give you an example. The collecting of ballots. Now you're saying, well, if the Republicans collect ballots, that's fair. No, here's the reality of it. In very dense, heavy populated cities, the vast majority of people are Democrats. You can put 4 or 5 people into a housing complex and come out with 200 or 300 ballots easily in an afternoon or an evening. Easy. Do that same thing in Republican areas where they're more suburban and more rural. It'll take you 20, 30 times as long to collect the same amount. And Democrats know this. They know this. That's why they want the rules to change so they can have a permanent advantage. Liberal pundits melted down Thursday after Kristen Sinema, Democrat Arizona, said she will not vote to weaken the Senate 60-vote filibuster threshold, bucking her party leaders yet again, and being a major blow to Democrats' election reform efforts.
I will not support separate actions that worsen the underlying disease of division infecting our country. The debate over the Senate 60-vote threshold shines a light on our broader challenges. There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold to pass legislation. There's no need for me to restate its role protecting our country from wild reversals in federal policy. It is a view I've held during my years serving in both the U.S. House and the Senate, and it is the view I continue to hold. It is the belief that I have shared many times in public settings and in private settings.
There's no need for me to restate my long-standing support for the 60-vote threshold and to pass legislation, she said. And she went on, protecting our country from wild reversals of federal policy. That's the idea of the founder having a Senate to begin with. That's why only a third of it is up for election. That's Civics 101. That's why it's a 6-year term instead of a 2-year term like House of Representatives. That's why the House is up every 2 years. All the members are up for re-election or election. And in the Senate, only a third are. That's why you don't have these emotional swings like parliamentary system, which was around for the founding, and the founding fathers said no. One-party rule is not a good idea. If it creates gridlock, all right, that's fine. Rather than have nothing done and have something really horribly done. This week's heavy discussions about Senate rules are but a poor substitute for what I believe would have been a thoughtful public debate at any time over the past year. She's under the delusion that progressive Democrats want to have a thoughtful public debate. Remarks met Sinema's longstanding stance on the filibuster and effectively put a potential fatal nail in the coffin of Democrats' long-shot effort to pass 2 election bills over unified GOP opposition. Liberal pundits and columnists, I almost said communist, same thing for these guys, didn't hide their disdain for the Democrat lawmaker. Washington Post columnist Jennifer Rubin, who has become known for her pivot to boosting Democrats after once holding conservative views, called Sinema's decision worse than incoherent or cowardice. Well, she switched because that's where the money is. You can make a lot of money being a progressive libtard. Here's the thing, though. When they disagree with somebody, they go after them personally. Sinema is effectively asking the authors of Jim Crow and vote rigging to give their permission for her to stop it. That's a crock of bullshit. That's a lie. This is worse than incoherent or cowardice. It's a moral disgrace. Ask the segregationists for permission to vote for Civil Rights Act. These people are out of their minds. The people that put their bodies on the line, and many died during the civil rights struggle of the 60s, are turning over in their graves. It's insane because they didn't get their way. They're not going to get permanent one-party rule. When I was a city councilman, there were several pieces of legislation over the 8 years that I was on the council that I kind of agonized over. And so what I use for a guide sometimes is who is adamantly for it or who is adamantly against it. You can be for or against something without being adamant and just out of control over it. And if somebody that was adamant about it, and that was a person that 99% of the time I disagree with, I probably wouldn't vote for legislation or vice versa. Sometimes knowing who's for it or who's against it will give you a guide whether it's a good thing or not. Unbelievable. Asking the authors Jim Crow and vote rigging to give their permission for her to stop it. Vote rigging, that's what they do. Former NBC host Keith Olbermann, can't get rid of him, who once walked away from a high-paying ESPN job in order to be free to mock then-President Trump because he had enough money. He didn't need it. Not only took credit for Sinema's rise, but also called for her to resign. And that's the thing. Are Republican senators asking all the progressive morons and grifters on the Democrat side of the Senate floor to resign? Nope. They're saying you're wrong and you're an idiot, but they don't ever ask anybody to resign. And that's what they do. They go after people personally. I say this as her former friend. Now she's not even friends with her anymore. And the person who first gave her national television exposure. Senator Sinema needs to resign and be removed from office immediately. Be removed because these people think it's a dictatorship. Authoritarian rule. You don't do what we want, we'll get rid of you and put somebody in that does. That's what banana third world republics do. Rather than decreasing division in this country, her action guarantees it. Throwing people out, having them removed from office because you don't agree with them is uniting the country, you dumbass. Then he continues, for whatever reason, Senator Sinema has become a menace to continuation of American democracy. While Olbermann no longer works for MSNBC, current host from the Liberal Network also chimed in. Sinema delivers the Senate's stupidest speech by a Democrat and an edge of tears voice to give childish words a melodramatic effect. Unbelievable. It's incredible. O'Donnell's MSNBC colleague, far left of Joy Reid, who I will say, honestly and truly, Joy Reid is a sociopath. She declared that she wanted to craft an anti-Sinema tweet, but Lawrence said it better. Meanwhile, MSNBC's Malcolm Nance pondered why her staff doesn't resign at the shame of being handmaidens to the death of democracy. Jesus. You got to be kidding me, right? Talk about melodramatic. These people are mentally deranged. CNN's Jones Lockhart wrote, probably more accurate to refer to her as former Senator Sinema. You don't agree with us? You do one of two things. You do what we tell you, or you disappear. That's what banana republics do. And now we're on the edge. I mean, it's close 50-50. And it almost got through, getting rid of the filibuster for this voting rights bills. It's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. First of all, they can't do it at the federal level. It's up to the states. And secondly, they're doing it for permanent one-party rule. The founders, it looks like, the founding fathers set up a system that was idiot-proof. And I was born in 1956. And this is the founders, in my lifetime, the biggest test of the federal system. We'll see what happens. We are on the edge of the cliff. Are we going to fall off? We'll see. As usual, it's up to the American people to decide. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.